So the first lesson that I would like to talk about is I was thinking about this concept of look fear in the face. We have that quote from Sri Yukteswarji, look fear in the face and it will cease to trouble you. And how really Swami Kriyananda expressed that in his discipleship and really showed that example. And I think continues to show that as an example and as a training to all of us if we pay attention. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. So there's this story which I heard recently by a devotee who's been one of the founding members. And she was talking about this time they were in this neighboring town from Ananda. And she was with Swamiji. And he basically they had to do some errands. And at some point they finished. And he said, okay, would you like to have a coffee? Shall we go somewhere? And so she said, oh, yes, sure, Swamiji. And so he said, well, where would you like to go? And so she said, anywhere but this one place. And so Swamiji looked at her and said, why? And she said, oh, those people, they don't really have a very good opinion of Ananda. So I would rather not go there. And sure enough, a few minutes later, where did they go? But Swamiji walked right into that coffee shop and, he opened the door and there they were. And there's so many things to learn from this story, isn't it? And I was just thinking about that this week, in a way, the job of the masters, we may say. This is something we've been doing a level 3 discipleship class with some of the students here. And we were talking just about this. What does a guru do? He doesn't paralyze us. All he does is he tries to lift our own energy. He tries to lift our own consciousness and to show us that we can do this, no? And to instill that spirit of I can face this. I don't need to be afraid of that. And often, if we pay attention, the masters will challenge us again and again to do exactly that. Oh, you have this fear? Let's find a way to make you face it right here, wherever you're trying to escape. And it's so wonderful in a way to see because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for freedom, isn't it? We may think like, oh, this is so tiring. But the moment we face it, we realize what we thought was so huge actually was just this little tiny thing. And oftentimes, the thing about that story that's also so wonderful, it wasn't that Swamiji said, you go in that coffee shop and I'll wait outside. He opened the door and walked right in with her. And that's another blessing of discipleship and another example that he showed us that, yeah, you have to face your karma, you have to face your fears, you have to face weird situations, you have to face difficult people, but you don't have to do it alone, and I will do it with you. I will show you how to walk like a man. I will give you the courage that you need, isn't it, to go through it. And all we have to do from our side is just to listen every day in meditation at the end of it. If we're praying for a situation or for whatever it is, listen to those whispers that the masters are constantly telling us. Now, take this step. Now, walk through that door. Now, do this. And if we just gather enough strength in ourselves to just do it, we realize actually how much grace comes, isn't it? And backs us in that moment. And I suspect in that moment for this devotee to just walk through, that was a huge lesson of just, wow, I don't have to take anything for, just face value and make a definition. Okay, now this is this way. You bring your joy, you bring your light into that coffee shop. Let people think whatever they want to think. Let people say whatever, let come who may. And if they all turn home, the goal still awaits you. Go on alone. That's the song, Walk Like a Man. And that's another part of this story and this example from Swamiji, isn't it? He showed us how to just kind of walk, lead from the heart, walk out. Do your meditation, do your practice, feel that joy in your spine, and then walk out into the world with that strength inside yourself. Don't hold back. Don't think anything is too big and I can't face this now. But there's also two more parts of this, which I was thinking. Sometimes it is pretty big. Let's face it, for us. Now that all of us yet are Swamiji and we have that level of energy to just face anything that way, or that level of freedom, that level of joy, perhaps in certain situations. But that's okay. all we have to do is keep our heart pointed in that direction. And this is something that struck me recently, you know. It's like it may take a year, it may take 2 years, 10 years, and you feel I'm not going anywhere with this. I'm not making any progress with this situation. I'm not able to face this. That's okay. But your heart is in the right place. So this is the direction I'm going, Master. I know this is where you want me to go, Swamiji. I can't do it yet, but I'm going, and I know you're there with me. I'm taking a small step. It may be a teeny step. Sometimes we even step backwards, but your heart is still pointed in that direction. And that's all they're asking of us, actually. Because he'll keep whispering, okay, now can you take that step? Oh, no? Okay, that's okay. Let's just keep going. In other ways, strengthen yourself. Now let's take a step. And all of a sudden, the door will open where you just break through this huge thing in yourself, no? This huge karma, this huge challenging situation, which you thought was just impossible. But they suddenly just open that window and let you walk into the coffee shop, you know, and just walk with you. And it's just not a big deal anymore. And that really is something for us to really pay attention to as devotees, you know, every single day, all of us. And I know even from just so many devotees' lives, just have this magic moments of where you get this whisper, this guidance from Swamiji. And if we just listen and act on it, he will give us the courage. He will give us the strength to face that. And it won't be as big as it seems. That was one of my lessons from Swamiji.
Thank you, Shamini. I like that very much. Of as long as our heart is going in the right direction, we'll get there, even if right now we don't have the strength. And I think that's a very important lesson for all of us, because we do wonder many times if I'm doing, what else can I do? And sometimes it's just keep sending energy in the right direction. So that's a beautiful way to put it, Shami. Thank you. Yesterday, this thought came to mind that I like very much what Master said when he was asked, why didn't Sri Yukteswar have many disciples? And, we all know that he was not planning to stay in this world for very long, hence he didn't want to that commitment. But then Master just remarked, but see, because he changed me, he's able to change millions through me. And I paraphrase a little bit, but because of one great disciple, the Guru, which, Master always considered himself being doing the work of his Guru or of Babaji, he was able to change millions and millions of others. And in a way, that's really what Swamiji was also able to do, to probably a lesser degree than Master, because of course Master was a master, but still so many thousands of people's lives now, and probably more to come, are being changed because Master changed him. And I thought that was a beautiful thing for all of us, that, never underestimate the power that the Guru can give you, in the sense of you never know how the Guru may act through you. Probably, possibly, none of us will change thousands of people, but even if we change one person, we don't know what that one person can do in return. It's just something to keep in mind. And I don't think Swamiji would have changed so many people if it wasn't because he was looking at the highest in all of them. And that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, that lesson of looking at the highest in people. And I think that's the reason why so many people thought that Swamiji was their best friend, even if some people who met him very briefly or who never had necessarily any personal relationship with him, because he was always able to see the highest in them and relate to everyone in that way. And therefore people felt that approach, they felt that warmth coming from there. There's a story of Swamiji that I'll tell very briefly, but basically one time there was a certain woman that I think he knew. I don't know if she came to the community often or she was living in the community at that time, but he knew her to be some person perhaps a little unstable or mentally unbalanced, and that she didn't necessarily have a lot of wisdom to share. And she had requested an interview with Swamiji, and of course, Swamiji, being who he was gracious to grant the interview. And when this moment was approaching, he was the first thought, oh my God, now I had to spend half an hour with this person, what am I gonna do? And he caught himself at that moment and said, no, Master God can tell us anything through anyone he chooses as a channel. So let me therefore be open even to this person who, I know is not necessarily wise or anything like that. And fair enough, because he went with that attitude and he saw that this person also is a manifestation of the divine as everybody else. He said that actually this lady, among all the things that he said, she did say something that Swamiji considered to be important for him to hear. And I always really like that, because there is two things that happens when you are able to do that. The first one, when you see the highest in people, is that you start becoming less personal. You start you stop reacting so much on what pleases you about other people and what displeases you about other people, and you start seeing things a little bit more in perspective. In perspective that we are all in this long journey of the soul, of the ego, and some people have certain stops that they need to still figure out within themselves, also as we have certain stops that we had to figure out within ourselves. In fact, I remember there is this, I don't know if you know this cartoon called the Flintstones, something like that in English, about this basically prehistoric people, living kind of like in a model. Anyway, I think you all know what it is. But there was this one episode that the main guy, I watched it in Spanish, so I don't know what it's actually called in English.
The Flintstones.
The Flintstones, because I was a kid. I watched it in Spanish. But the main guy, he had to live with himself for a day. And he thought it was going to be such a joyride, okay, we can do everything that we want because we like the same things. But he hated it. He could not stand himself until, the magical being that made him live with himself had to make the other one disappear too. And he learned a very valuable lesson. And I think it's very good for us to think sometimes, what if we had to live with ourselves, with a copy of ourselves? We'll be able to do it. I don't know, but that to say, we all have something or the other to work in ourselves. And when we are able to depersonalize, what other people's faults, other people's actions towards us or towards others, we're actually able to even perhaps guide them a little bit, guide them without guiding them, which is some of the best guidance sometimes that you can give, guiding with magnetism, guiding with prayer, by sharing the light. And that was the trick, I think, of how Swamiji was able to change so many thousands, because he always saw the highest. And I have seen that, it really, that practice makes life bearable, especially for, many of us who had to really, even with other gurubhais or with family members or with whoever or with friends, we have to interact with a whole lot of people. And if you are not able to see the highest in the whole lot of people, lot of the ego is going to start reacting left and right. So in a way, it's just not only we help them, but we help ourselves tremendously in the process. And we are able to really become channels of our guru, like Swamiji was. So seeing the highest in others and trying to see the light in others, I think it was one of the key components of Swamiji discipleship, which we should aspire to imitate in whichever way we can. That's all for that.
Thank you. So we're going to sing another song.
We are going to sing another song, which has to do with the next topic.
There's another one we all know. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings.
Let's try with the guitar again. All right. Okay. We'll sing it twice through. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Fling to the ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Fling to the ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Fling to the ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings.
So that brings us to the second part, so to say, and the third lesson. And this was the one I wanted to touch on, was about just not taking our own selves so seriously. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. That's something for us to keep in mind personally, isn't it? It's just, no, don't take it so like even our own karma, our own burdens, our own responsibilities, and it starts becoming like this, sometimes all the things that I have to do and all the things that I am dealing with. And it happens to all of us sometimes. And just to keep this perspective, lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Am I flying lightly right now? And sometime I remember going through this heavy period, and I caught myself looking in the mirror suddenly, because we have this big mirror, and just walking past, and my face was looking very grim. And I was like, this doesn't look likely I fly at all. What kind of joy is this? And I who claim that Ananda is the whole goal and everything. And I was thinking, when I first visited Ananda, the community, this was in Pune, and it was the last Christmas that Swamiji was in India and also in body, and a lot of devotees, long time, and a lot of Ananda devotees from all over the world had come to visit and gathered in the Pune community. And it was the first experience I had also of community, and just all these different devotees. And I remember having this very clear, thing of course, it was just amazing on many levels, but I was also kind of just watching the interactions with people, the way they were, the way they carried themselves. And I remember thinking, thank God that, these people are also happy, that these people are smiling and these people are laughing and sort of, let's say, wearing their joy on their sleeve, because ever since I was a kid, I was always like smiling. And, at some point, people are, you have to be serious and you can't just smile. And, you have to. And here it was just like everyone, in all the stories people were telling, all the interaction, there was just joy. And I just remember thinking, thank God, this is a path of joy, where we're allowed to be joyful, in fact, encouraged to be joyful. And that's so much what Swamiji is saying, isn't it? Lightly I fly when I live in laughter, live in it, live in that joy. And not this light-headed, giddy laughter, but feel that joy underneath every situation. Recently also, Guru Bhai was telling me that it's so interesting to see in Ananda. And I had to pay attention to this because I was sitting in a situation. Even in difficult situations, there's a palpable joy. And when they said this, I was kind of going, joy. But then I had to see. And when I stepped back from it, actually, I realized, even when I walked away from that situation, I realized, there is a palpable joy actually in between all the people involved. And there was this time I had to have this, it was kind of like we had to have a meeting, let's say, with somebody, and it wasn't clear. I think there was a thing, they were wondering if things were okay, we were wondering if things were all right. And we just met in a coffee shop, and we didn't actually talk about what we wanted to talk about, but we all came, with meditation, with Swamiji, with Master. We sat down, we had a coffee, we had a perfectly happy and a genuine exchange of energy. And then the moment we walked from that, it was a huge learning for me, because not only had everybody was everyone genuinely at peace that, okay, everything's all right here, just on a friendship level, but there was joy, which was very interesting. And there was not just our joy, it was their joy. And that was what was holding this friendship together. That was what was holding this connection together. And so, in that, how does it matter? How does it matter what conflict of interest and personality, this and that, and what to do list is not done or whatever, because that's the reality. That's the only reality. And if we focus on that, we actually, in our lives every day, pay attention again to this in our lives. We get to see what's really real here. What's the real world, as we can ask? Many times we think it's all of this and that, but it's really just one thing, isn't it? And that's what they're challenging us to, is live more in that joy. And there was this two wonderful stories we got to hear again recently. One was this time where I think a few devotees got together, and this one devotee was behaving very badly, so they were going to take the matter to Swamiji. And so they kind of gathered enough information and enough of them, and went to Swamiji with, to say that this person, she's not doing this and that, and she's, being useless and la la la. And Swamiji, essentially, his response just made them just kind of, they were like up here boiling. And he just brought the whole temperature down in the room, and essentially was just said, just calm down. It's okay. How does it matter in the end of it all? None of this is going to count for you. Just calm down, and just to have that ability to step back and see the long rhythm of even that particular person's journey, who we think is not behaving in the way that we think should be, to just be able to see their discipleship, to see their soul's journey instead of the situation in the moment. No, that's another huge one to keep in mind. And just take it lightly. Take yourself lightly as well. You think you're doing such an important job, and even take that lightly. Nishkam karma. Offer it as service. You're doing a great job. You're doing what you can do. They're doing what they can do. And just keep that perspective, because everyone's important in the guru's eyes, and we need to take care of each other. And another one was, this is again from a long time Ananda devotee, and they were sharing that this one time their colleague was just walking out of a meeting with Swamiji, and they kind of went, I just learned a big lesson. And so she said, what did you learn? And so they basically, this person was telling Swamiji, I'm working with so and so person, and they are not ever meeting deadlines, they're not on time, they don't show up, they're not reliable, blah, 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 all those things. And Swamiji, basically, what did he do in that moment? He picked up the phone and he called this person, and he said, I'm so thankful and so grateful for all the service that you're doing for Ananda and for Master's work. And thank you so much for your wonderful spirit, and something like that. And then he put the phone down. That's it. He didn't have to say anything to this disciple, but this disciple got it. What is the right spirit here? What's the right perspective? And just take ourselves more light, in that sense. Take whatever we are doing, whatever the Guru has given us. Nothing is more or less important in his eyes. It's all what we need right now. We just do our best. And also with gratitude, we pay attention. If we look around, I love to see, in friendships I have in Ananda, some of the best seva teams I have been a part of, I had a chance to be a part of, was where we were thrown into things we had no idea how to do. And there was just a lot of laughter, a lot of humor, a lot of late nights, a lot of random meetings on Zoom now or wherever, just figuring it out, a lot of random accounting, and we're just going, how is this? What is this? But there's so much joy and there's so much grace, and everyone's willing, everyone's trying. That's what counts. And we're all showing up every single day. And that's what they look at. No? Take it in the end, have the spirit of lightness underneath everything that we get to do, everything in Ananda, because that's a very big part of life. That's a very big gift as well that Swamiji has given us in his example.
Thank you, Shamini. And I have something similar to share, which is about lightness in situations as well. And, this story comes to mind of Swamiji again, that one time there was a devotee that, because they realized that they had this tendency of just talking too much, or their mouth, as they would say, would give them trouble sometimes, because as we all do at times, we talk without thinking what we are talking about, just for the sake of talking, and we may hurt people's feelings, or we may just say inappropriate things, talking for myself at least, and whatever. So this person, when they discovered that, they started, whenever they realized that they were talking without thinking, they would stop at the middle of a sentence, in the middle of a word, it didn't matter when, and they said, oh, but never mind, and put their hands like this. Oh, but never mind. And even in front of Swamiji, this person did that whenever they realized what they were doing. So like that, this went for a few weeks, to the point that at some time this person was with Swamiji, and at some point Swamiji says, he becomes very serious and says, I was meditating in this last meditation, and Babaji came to me, and he had a message for you. And you can imagine the person, what they were thinking. Imagine if Swamiji were to tell you that, probably your heart would be tom, and you'll be like, without being able to breathe. And then Swamiji, he said that, oh, never mind. And of course, the person started burst laughing and admitted, oh, you did it very well. And does it always look that? I didn't realize how ridiculous it looks. Is it so annoying? And Swamiji said, yes, please stop. And that was it. But the person thinking about it realized that if Swamiji had told them that you're doing this wrong and it's kind of ridiculous, why are you even doing it? They would have felt kind of embarrassed about it for probably several weeks, or for a while at least, and being very self-conscious about what they were doing and the shame or the embarrassment. Whereas bringing it like this lightly with humor, like this, they could overcome it. And that's a very good lesson for us in bringing lightness to life, to situation. And there is a very fine line, of course. For example, in the lawsuits, many times we hear that Swamiji also brought lightness to situations. Even though he was going through hell in some of those situations, he was able to bring lightness. But he didn't make light of the situation, in the sense that he didn't think it wasn't important, he didn't think it was not serious, he didn't do things in a serious matter when it was required, but he was able to bring some lightness, as Shamini was saying, the spirit of joy also to the situation. Sometimes it's worth pondering or meditating on what Master said. If you remember, Master recommended to teachers or people who are going to share the teachings, he gave very clear instructions. He said, study the teachings, think of a few strong points, have a funny story to make people laugh, and basically meditate very deeply, and then let go of everything you've written and talk from inspiration. Something on those lines, he said. But very, very strongly, he said, have a funny story, because when people relax, they are more receptive. And sometimes we do listen together as a community to Master stories or Master's talks, and they're just so hilarious. And we have often, or a few times, listened to that one where he talks about all the reincarnations. Remember, this person reincarnated and he wanted this, and and how we are all laughing at the end. And at the end, Master is saying, that's why Jesus says, seek ye the kingdom of God first. And remember, he started shouting and giving this super strong lesson. And we are all like, yes, we were all relaxed and open with laughter. And we were like, yes, seek ye the kingdom of God first. That's what I need to do. Recently, I had a lesson on this because whenever you share, you are differently inspired. Sometimes you are quite inspired, sometimes inspiration is less, sometimes just, the words don't come out as you wish they would come out. But we had this group that we were doing a class, and a couple weeks ago, I felt like whenever I shared, I was able to bring humor, and people actually responded to that humor, and in the process of the relaxation, some nice things came out. Some nice things were shared, and we all felt like it was an uplifting environment class, and there was a nice exchange. But recently, there was another class with the same group that I felt I was not able to bring that aspect, or very, very little of it. And in response, I also felt like people, were a little yawning and whatnot. That receptivity was not there anymore. And, it's not that we had to make people crack up, all the time and keep it all super light like this in a jokey mode. I mean, some people are just more funny than others. For example, when you listen to Naya Swami Haridas or Naya Swami Dharmarajan, you just can't stop laughing, because even if they say hi, you start laughing. It's a whole thing about their aura that makes you. They have that inner joy that they are able to express outwardly, and many people don't have that. That to say that when you're able to bring lightness to life, to situations in life, you're also able to relax, and you're able to see the bigger picture and get perspective. And also you're able to make the other people around you relax and see the bigger picture also in return. Now, I think, as we said earlier, this has to be very carefully balanced with not taking life like a joke, and avoiding doing our responsibilities, or avoid giving due importance to things that require due importance. But if you're able to laugh at the ridiculousness of a situation, that's always a good thing, I feel, because in that you let, you invite Master, you say, Master, what is this? You say, Master, what is this? Master, what is this? It's so ridiculous. What are you thinking? What are we thinking? That simple change of attitude, I think, makes you enjoy the whole show much more. And in the process, it helps us get away from the show altogether and act more in freedom, in that joy that Shamini was talking about. So yeah, that's our sharing.
Yes. So we thought we'll end maybe with one more song.
Are we ending with?
Maybe Pray for the People or something.
Pray for the People. Pray for the people who lived in these fields. Pray the great warriors who confronted the foe, to defend what is holy, to defend what is true. Our Lord on mankind did this duty bestow. Glad are our children who people these hills, glad in their beings their hearts understand what became of past struggles. Now the records are still, but courage still lingers, giving strength to their land. Men hunger for riches, for power, for fame. By favor they think they will grow. The battles they fight, the victories they win, are never the victories they know. Men hunger for riches, for power, for fame. By favor they think they will grow. The battles battles they fight, the victories they win, are never the victories they know. Brave were the people who lived in these fields, brave the great warriors who confronted the foe, to defend what is holy, to defend what is true. Our Lord on mankind did this duty bestow. Our Lord on mankind did this duty bestow.